elected, what is your plan to address it? Candidate Alvarez, you're up.
So, one of the things I see as a weakness, it sort of bleeds into other issues. But we have in Natomas a pretty substantial high turnover teacher rate. That stems from a number of things. I understand that the teachers in the district have pretty much been at an impasse or a fact-finding event or action in the last 8 years. That can be contributed to a number of things, such as transparency with communications and being able to communicate effectively between both parties. But the point is that has resulted in a number of things like high teacher turnover rate, which sort of also is because of teachers having issues with respect to having their voices heard, even in their own classroom with respect to managing them. As a school board member, my goal is to make sure that there is transparency in communications and that we make sure that we're working with the end goal of ensuring our students have the quality education they deserve and have the safe working environment, school environment they deserve as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Thank you. I'm so glad you asked that question. One of the things that I think is a weakness, even as a sitting trustee, is that we have to address the rigor in our schools. Earlier this year, I made board comments about what I believe is a lack of belief in some of our KAs over in the South area. That's really disturbing to me. And so we need to address that rigor. We need to be very direct about it. And we have to have belief in students. One of the things that I can't stand, and I will never be able to stand it, is the soft bigotry of low expectations that I hear. When I first ran, I knocked on over 8,000 doors, and I talked to a lot of parents who were leaving the school district for that very reason and transferring to other districts. And so we have to put a stop to that. In addition to that rigor, I think we have to be more creative about the curriculum that we're giving our students. We have a lot of college and career pathways, but I also want to get a little bit more creative about our vocational track. One of the things that I've been advocating for the last couple of years is a cosmetology track. We know that if we can keep kids in school and we can keep them entertained and we can keep them engaged, attendance will go up. And so I think one of the best ways to do that is acknowledge some of the things that kids are doing and make sure that they have a pathway towards that. Everyone, when I went to college, everyone was given cuts in dorms, everyone was given haircuts, everyone was doing nails. So if we were a little bit creative about that, we could send kids to college with a skill that they can profit financially off of and have some credit. So the creativity is one thing, and the rigor is another. And as your trustee, I'm going to keep pushing on those things.
Thank you. Candidate Hardin, you may begin.
Hi, that's a great question, and that's something that's really near and dear to my heart. There are so many things that we need to fix and so little time to do it. But the first thing, as Chris and Micah mentioned, we do need to bridge the gap. The disparity in between the North and the South schools, it's just not okay. I live on the North side and my love is for all of Natomas. I put my kids in the South schools for a reason, because I believed in the tenured teachers. I believed in the education that they could get. I did see such a lapse in good judgment that was being made when it came to children of color. Special education, children aren't being heard. We're at a 66% loss in the last 3 years of teachers retention. As Scott mentioned, 18% raise, great. They're still underpaid, but they're not being heard. There's absolutely no communication going on between most of the school teachers and the administration. And if we don't fix that, we are going to be in huge trouble. One of the other things we need to work on is starting to get our community involved. Let them know what's going on. We're not reaching out to all the stakeholders that are involved. When I get in office, I'm planning on changing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
So one of the things I want to talk about is budget. Several years ago, our budget was not as strong as it is now. And we were at a financial disability in terms of being able to provide the types of educational programs that we wanted to. Over the last 8 years, we have strengthened the budget, and not only strengthened our budget, but we have strengthened our reserve. And that only comes about when you have school board members that understand school budgets and that can make those hard decisions about budget cuts. For example, I for one have been there during those deliberations of making budget cuts. And every time I have kept those cuts away from the classroom. But also in terms of budget cuts is our reserves. Who would ever suspected that we would have a pandemic and need to spend $1 million to buy Chromebooks and hotspots for our kids? We could only do that is because we had been very prudent in the budget that we had been creating all along. So, and our coming back to school, our successes with our students in educating them is going to depend on that budget, especially when several budgets across the nation, not just the state, but the nation, are going to be cutting budgets due to a lack of full and fair funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Saviano, you may begin.
Yeah, so I applaud the district's high graduation rates, but I think that there's work and serious work that needs to be done to make sure that students are actually ready for college coursework. While 96% of students are graduating, only 52% are actually ready for that coursework in college. As someone who had to take remedial math and English, I understand how that sets you back as a student when, especially as tuition is going up and you're trying to get through and finish your education so you can move on to your career. And, you know, part of that, I think one of the issues that also needs to be addressed, and it's tied to that as well, is the third grade reading level. Only 44% of the students in Natomas Unified are reading at the third grade reading level. And if you're not at that level by third grade, you're playing catch up your entire career. And so that really sets you back among your peers, and you're not able to really keep up. So that's one of the things that I really want to focus on and work on. And I think it's part of looking at the issues through an equity lens and making sure that we are creating equity between North and South Natomas. You know, as a person of color, I believe that, you know, there is more work that we can do to make sure that equity and making sure that everyone is at the table and that we recognize who is not at the table and that we bring them and invite them to be part of those conversations and that we include them in the work that is going on and making sure that we're working together for progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mesa, we're up.
For me right now, I think we really need to have after school and before school after options for the parents. We talk about equity and inclusion, but the problem is we have inclusion in the schools, in the classrooms. But yeah, I think we need to promote open discussions, better communication, and improved partnership with a broad coalition of diverse community stakeholders, including the district staff, so we can eradicate this problem that we have right now in the school system.
Thank you. Candidate Dosick, you are up.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to build off of the great thing about going second to last. I get to build off of my colleagues' answers. So Sue's right. One of the reasons a district is in a position to weather this epidemic, this pandemic, is because of the prudent budget decisions that we collectively have made over the last 8 years. I served on the district's budget advisory committee and I chaired the district's bond oversight committee prior to running for school board. I have the experience that's necessary to navigate us through this crisis. What I saw happening 8-10 years ago, families were fleeing Natomas. The families that could were leaving the district. They were sending their kids to private schools or to schools in other districts. And my concept, my theory was if we offered the programs that kids need and parents want, like International Baccalaureate, SECA, AP Capstone, career technical pathways, if we invest in these programs, if we keep the cuts out of the classroom, families will come back, which will generate the resources we need to focus on, as Mariana said, the making sure kids are reading at grade level by third grade. Because if they're not reading at grade level by third grade, they're more likely to be incarcerated than to graduate high school. We have done that. And that's the reason we've seen increased test scores and we've seen increased graduations rates. That there's always more work to be done. 96 is great. Why are we not at 100%? And we do need to address, while we've increased our A through G eligibility, the number of kids that are eligible to go to UC or CSU, we need to increase those numbers.
Classroom instruction and when they return to the classroom. We focus on helping our skills get prepared with the skills for this job of the future. This is a challenge throughout all schools, this opportunity to focus on the curriculum that's focused on teaching skills. I'm a board member for Latinas in Technology. The statistics are really sad. Only 1% of Latinas are in tech, and I have dedicated my time to bringing that number up. There's no sign of let up in the speed at which the workplace is being digitized. So this is what we need to focus on. Our community needs to learn how to bring those skills into the modern economy. We need to prepare our students, and I'm the person to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so you look at the depression rate, you look at the suicide rate, those things are going up terribly. And so what we've done is made significant investments in social workers to ensure their safety. Of all people, you know, anyone can call that hotline, and that's something I'm really proud of to have accomplished with our fellow trustees. Additionally, I like the work that our SROs are doing, right? A lot of people may have issues with that, but our SROs, they do play a strong social worker component in our district. And I want to make sure that they are visible and active and play a more a community-based role in our schools. And, you know, so those are some of the things that we've done. We've managed to implement it. If you look at our facilities, we do have a facilities master plan. We do have a comprehensive school safety plan that we've reviewed. We've made those investments, and we are very, very well aware of what the holes are in terms of security and presence in our community. I think one thing we can do is partner with the city, and we can look at where crime is happening, and we need to make sure that we stomp that out and then parents feel safe in their communities and can communicate to the board members or city council members. So these are things that we've done. I'm very proud of those things, and we need to continue.
Counselors, social workers, and psychologists in every school, because our kids were already needing us, and now you've added on the pandemic. There's no telling what people are going through, and unfortunately the hotline is not able to reach everybody. I would love to see those social workers knocking on some doors and doing check-ins. Our teachers and counselors, we know the ones that need to be checked in. Let's make some home visits. We can talk to them social distance, but let's find out and make sure their needs are being met. We can't afford to lose any more of our students at all. So yes, SROs are great, but we need to think about maybe just one SRO for the entire district, because they can't be the social workers. Unfortunately, the schools have utilized SROs in the wrong way, and it's not fair. It's not fair to our children. It's not fair to our family, and it's truly not fair to the SROs themselves, because they've been put in awkward situations. We need more funding to go into the right places, and that's making sure that we go ahead and get the psychologists, social workers, and counselors. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
I'm not muted. Okay, good. I'm not muted. You know, I'm glad Erica brought up those things, because everything that she brought up about the social workers and the school psychologist, you know, is our commitment to what we refer to as wraparound services. We have hired the social workers who will make home visits. I'm a strong proponent of home visits. That's been part of my research, is home visit programs. And also with the, you know, with not only our social worker, but our school psychologist. You need those services, you know, hand in hand. And so we've made those efforts, and just, you know, just in the last 2 board meetings, we've discussed the particulars about what their role will be. We talked about their job description. We approved that job description. So there is documentation that shows that we've made efforts in that area. I was appointed to a committee, a local committee by SCOE, to work with. I'm one of the few school board members to look at expanding wellness inside of our school districts and working to bring about mental health teams in each district. But until that happens, Natomas Unified has made that. I mean, with our, for example, our wellness center. Not only are we concerned about the wellness of our students, but we're also concerned about the wellness of our parents and our teachers.
Your time is up. Candidate Saviana, you may begin.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's really important as we start to make a transition, we start to think about coming back to the classroom, is that we have a safe environment for all staff, teachers, and administrators. And that includes making sure that we have appropriate PPE, including masks, gloves, plexiglass, cleaning supplies, hand sanitizer, etc. All of that needs to be in place, and that we have a screening process in place to make sure that, you know, students and staff or anyone that may have a fever or some of the other symptoms remains at home. I think, I also applaud the district and the work that they've done to bring in more health professionals. I think that, that's an area that we can continue to work on for sure, including, having more nurses, more mental health professionals and counselors. I believe that we need to review the contracts of the SROs. This is the perfect time to do that. Is, with limited funds, we need to make sure that we have support systems for students, and that we ask the students themselves and the parents, how has it been having SROs on campus? We know the research, it's out there. We all know that for students of color, there's mixed feedback. And so I want to make sure that we review that during this time of limited funding, and that limited funding goes directly to the classroom and to support services for all students.
Thank you. Candidate Mehta, you may begin.
So just a few weeks back, I did an interview with CBS talking about the similar issue. And I also said the same thing. The social and emotional counselors are very important at this point of time. And I agree, counselors are important, psychologists are important, all these are important. But at the same time, I think we need to give more training to teachers as well. And we need to have, right now we can have workshop for parents, but we need to have workshop for parents and teens to make them understand what's going on. Right now we can, but for the teachers, I think this is one of the important things as well. We need to have this, we have the student safety plan, but how many teachers in the classroom or staff on the school side knows how to handle? If in case we don't have a resource officer, do we have given that enough training that how a front office can handle a student? So I think we need to have everybody trained. And with the social and emotional counselors, like if we do not have funding, I'm not too sure about the funding, but if we cannot have a social and emotional counselor at each site, then we need to have people who are trained for that so that all the students are served better. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Dosick, you may begin.
This is the perfect question, and I need about 10, 15 minutes tops to be able to adequately answer it, but I'll take my 90 seconds. If you have not done so already, I would strongly encourage you, watch the video from last night's board meeting where we talked about many of these issues. Listen to the story that the superintendent told of our social workers, our counselors, our social emotional support staff, and our SROs working in collaboration to literally save a life because of a call that came in through our crisis hotline. This is why we invested in 8 social workers throughout the district and a psychologist at each and every one of our sites. We have to also look at the physical safety of our students, our teachers, and staff, which is why we have already invested in hand sanitizer, plexiglass barriers, face masks, PPE, and HEPA filters for every single room in our district. So these are already in place for the time when we can go back to a hybrid and eventually full-time classroom-based teaching. We have been working through our parent university to provide resources in multiple languages to our families. We also have contracted out with a third-party vendor that provides translation services for meetings with teachers or for IEPs or any other district function in literally dozens of different languages. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Barrios, you may begin.
Thank you. So first, we need to follow the guidance of public health officials. We need to listen to them right now. They are the experts. That's what we're hiring them for.
Oh, speak up.
Can you hear me? Okay. So first, we need to follow the guidance of the public health officials. We need to listen to them right now. This is why we're hiring them. They're the experts. And second, we need to let the superintendent lead. Here, the superintendent has been very proactive in addressing this crisis. I have seen the communication come through. He has a strong pulse on the community. And the last thing he needs is board members clouding his judgment on this. Now is the time to let the superintendent lead on the crisis while the board is forward thinking and planning for how we can help the students recover from learning loss when we return to the classroom. So again, we want to let the superintendent lead, take advice from the experts, and prepare for the future that's coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
Well, since we're on a pandemic, safety should be the priority, regardless of the educational model we decide and use, whether that's distance learning, in person, or some form of a hybrid. We have to make sure that we're working closely with our teachers, our staff, our parents, health advisors, and other experts to ensure that we create age and grade appropriate teaching models. We also need to make sure that we're ready at all levels to ensure safety. We need to make sure we have adequate custodians, paraprofessionals, food services, and other classified employees. As everyone, it's been mentioned already, but I do agree, we need to ensure that all students have access to resources in and out of the classroom, including counselors, nurses, social workers, psychologists, and programs to help support the underserved communities, especially those, for instance, in South Natomas. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. All right, now we are on to question 3. What is the role of a school board member if or when the district is facing a financial crisis? Candidate Hardin, you may begin.
The role of the school board member when facing a crisis is to roll up their sleeves and realize that they're just not a board member. They are the community's choice. It is important not to hide things from the community. It is important for us to find out exactly where the problem is and to be able to go in and be willing to get our hands dirty. Sometimes there's tough choices that have to be made. We don't have time to try to be making friends. We need to make sure that we're ensuring that the community is getting everything that they need. We need to go out there and have forums, talk to the people. The fact of the matter is there's not enough communication going on between the district, the board members, the superintendent, and our admins. We need to all come together to do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
Well, facing budget crisis is something I have been through. And there were years where we made several or severe cuts to the budget. But it wasn't just a process of having the board make the cuts. There were multiple attempts to get feedback from the community. We not only held conversations at the school site, we held them at the district site, and we held them at the community centers where the community members could come and give us the feedback. We had charts around the room. We asked them their priorities. We asked them, we asked them to identify, for example, the things that they wanted, the short term and long term. All of that information over a course of several months comes back to the board, and again, through multiple meetings of discussion about cuts. So I have been there. That's when we had to cut, for example, transportation. That's when we had to look at making shifts in programs. And we heard from the parents. And through that, then the budget that we created reflected the needs and the wants of the district, of the community members. Not everybody was happy, but it was a process in which we thought was fair and everybody's voice counted.
Thank you. Candidate Saviano, you may begin.
Yeah, so the role of the board is to engage the community, parents, teachers, and classified staff, hear from them, their priorities, and the direction that they want to see the district going. I think it's also a time to be creative and to think outside the box. We know that 40%, there's a dedicated funding source at the state level. 40% of the general budget goes to K through 12 schools. So we know that we can count on that money, but that money alone is not enough, especially for Natomas Unified, who is a growing district. As we see development in our area that brings in more students, more families, and we need to make sure that we are being creative on creating partnerships with other similar school districts and advocating for additional funding to support the new student population. I also believe that, like I said, we need to be creative. Cuts alone are not the solution. We really need new revenues in times of difficult budget cuts to make sure that we prioritize classroom funding and student services. So that's one of the things that I will prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mehta, you may begin.
So I agree with most of the candidates right now that we need to engage all the community stakeholders, and we should have we should have an input from everybody. And I want to make sure that when the cuts are unavoidable, I want to lead the front to the board and forego the negotiate pay cut for the management staff. I still want to support maintaining healthy reserves and make sure there is a balanced approach between budget cuts and the use of reserve fund is adopted. And also I want to eliminate the spending plan focus on student achievement and not cater to adult political interests. So I want to make sure that these funds are used to going into the classrooms and not to the political interest of anybody on the board. So that is where I stand.
Thank you. Candidate Dosick, you may begin.
This is a perfect question for right now. The one thing we probably can all agree on this call, the state is in a pandemic-induced recession, and the budget is going to get worse before it gets better. We know that the state budget crisis is just coming. Revenues are going to be down for the state for the 2020-21 fiscal year. We know this because people are unemployed, businesses are closing. We are going to be losing revenues. The one thing we know we can do to maximize revenue for the district is to keep enrollment high. Every kid that we keep in this district is about $10,000 in revenue from the state. The other way to look at it, every student that we lose from this district, if they choose to leave Natomas Unified for a private school or for a school in another district, that's $10,000 that we would lose, which is why we have to be very prudent with the cuts. So I, along with the board, voted in the spring to cut $7 million from our budget. $7 million, not one of those cuts was in the classroom. They were predominantly in the district office, cutting of vacant positions. We have to keep funding programs like International Baccalaureate, SECA, the AP Capstone program, and our career technical education programs. And these are not political interests. These are the programs that keep kids in our district, that keep them coming back to school every day and will ensure their long-term success. And that's how we're going to guarantee that we have the revenues we need to succeed.
Thank you. Candidate Barrios, you may begin.
Okay, so the role of the school board member is to balance the budget, period. It is the one responsibility you have as a board member. So whatever it takes to balance the budget is what we must do, and we must keep cuts away from the classroom. We don't want a Sacramento City Unified School District situation here. So how do we prevent a budget disaster? It starts by electing candidates who are not beholden to political interests. If a candidate running now is taking money from a political interest group, it means those groups will lobby them to protect their budget interests. That's not what we need. That's a recipe for disaster. What we need is political independence. Again, I do not take contributions from political interest groups, and I will not allow politics to cloud my judgment. I will stand with the students, parents, and our community. When it comes time to make the hard decisions, I will stand firm with what's right. And again, we can't do everything at once. We're going to have to prioritize things in order to get done. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
Thanks. So the board needs to work to remain solvent and financially stable during a financial crisis. We need to be transparent, communicate effectively with stakeholders, as others have said, and we need to update financial projections regularly. The board needs to help ensure that the district creates and adheres to long-term financial plans, stays current with the economic information from local, state, and federal levels, and collaborate, as I said earlier, with all stakeholders to ensure that sound decisions are made. I believe this should be done without compromising the educational quality of our students. And as others have mentioned here, it's important to keep those cuts away from our classrooms.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what's been said, but the question was, what is the role of a board member? So I'm going to answer that question. The role of a board member is to be an advocate. The role of a board member is to be a good judge of a matter. The role of a board member is to roll up your sleeves, look at those budgets, and make sure that those cuts are staying away from the classroom. And that's exactly what we've done. The role of a board member is to consider taxpayers. We have a very terrible recession out there, and we have to think about the moms and pops who are struggling. We have to think about the single parents, the single moms and dads who can't get to a board meeting and be advocates. And so when we're talking about revenue, we also have to think about who it's coming from. And so that's the role of a board member, I believe. I've been there with Sue. I've been there with Scott. We've looked at these budgets. We've made tough decisions. This is not something we have to learn. This is something we've already done multiple times, that we've kept those cuts away from the classroom. And we always start with the education center. And even though the Ed Center employees right now are working extremely hard, we put out a vision that lets them know we have to start at the top. So the role of a board member is to be a leader. It's not to shrink away and run from the tough decisions. And as Ms. Monica Barrios said, is not to be persuaded by political interests. Your job is to be a neutral, good judge of a matter, and to make sure that you're an advocate for the community, and to consider the taxpayer and all that they've sacrificed and all that they're sacrificing as parents, and advocate for them from the dais.
Thank you. All right, question 4. There seems to be a lot of public tension between the teachers union and Natomas Unified School District leadership. How do you see yourself helping to improve this relationship? Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
Well, I have always had a very open policy about meeting with any constituent in the district, and also with the teachers. And in fact, over the years, I've been very proud of my relationship with members of the teachers union. Last year, for example, I just wanted to share that, the teachers union, members of the executive committee reached out to me and said, we want to meet with you on a regular basis. So they set up a series of meetings on a monthly basis. I met with teachers K-12. They shared their concerns. I visited their school sites. I listened to their ideas. And then some of those ideas I took back to the superintendent. So that's what I've always envisioned a relationship to be about, is to be responsive to the teachers, to visit their schools, to visit their classrooms, to listen to their concerns, to carry those concerns back to the appropriate staff, and try to work with them in the interest of their students and their school site. And I'm happy to know that, if it hadn't been for COVID, I would still be meeting with them this year and still working with them to hear their concerns. And they've always known. I mean, our numbers are open, are published. People can call us, and always welcome the opportunity to meet and talk with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Saviano.
Yes. So improving the relationship between the board, the district, and the teachers is a priority. In looking at some of the information, we know that 48% of teachers agree that they feel safe and connected to their school. And so I think that is low. It needs to be 100%. I am committed to meeting with the teachers, having dialogue, bringing them into the conversations before votes occur, get their input, and support them. The only way that we can really know how to best support teachers is if we're having conversations with them. As someone that is endorsed by the teachers, I am committed to meeting with them. I know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that we are treating and supporting teachers as the professionals that they are. I have a sibling that's a teacher, and I know how much work goes into preparing for the class, grading papers. It's not just the teaching, it's the preparation that goes into it. And Natomas Unified has amazing teachers, and we need to work to retain them and keep them here in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mehta.
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Yes. There seems to be a lot of public tension between the teachers union and Natomas Unified School District leadership. How do you see yourself helping to improve this relationship?
Okay, so now coming back to the answer for this question, I have been a volunteer in the school for like 12 years now. So for me, talking to the teachers is not going to eradicate the problem. The attention, we have to be inside the classroom to see what struggles or what support the teachers need. And right now, when we see the communication between the district and the union, it really puts a negative connotation around the community and very negative feeling. So for me, I would want, as a board member, I would be sitting in the classrooms like I have been doing for 12 years and seeing what the students' needs are, what teachers' needs are, what kind of support is needed. So I know firsthand, I'm not seeing from a teacher's perspective, I'm seeing from a school perspective as well, that what are the needs to be taken care of for students and teachers. I think if teachers are happy, the students will be successful, and vice versa. So if looking at firsthand in the classroom, it's why would teachers be unhappy? only because there are concerns in the classroom. That is their job. And we know as teachers, I have amazing relationship in Natomas teachers who stay in Natomas. I've been there with them. I've been outside, inside, and I want to support these teachers. So as a board member, I would be going in the classrooms, sitting with those teachers, and I'm approachable. I'm in Natomas, I'm staying. My number will be available for anybody who has problems or want to share something, or we can go and get things done. So that is where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Dossett.
One of the most important responsibilities of a school board member is keeping in mind that there are 16,000 students in this district and families, and they are our primary responsibility. We have to do what's best for these kids. So how do I go about doing that? A big portion of that is spending time in classrooms. Well, looking forward to hopefully being back in the classrooms at some point during this school year. I have a full-time job working for the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development on a job creation program. So I take my vacation days to go visit classrooms, to talk to teachers, to see them in action. One of the things you'll hear if you were to attend a board meeting, you would hear us constantly talking about two things: the cycle of continuous learning and improvement, and from the boardroom to the classroom. We make tough decisions every week that affect our students, our teachers, our classified staff. I don't make a single one of those decisions without going back to the classrooms to see how they're impacting our teachers and our students. I remain accessible to anyone and everyone. Every one of the board members, our email address is on our website. I have my business cards from the school district, have my personal cell phone number, and I provide that and make that freely available to anyone that wants it. And I look forward to continuing this collaborative effort, hopefully for the next 4 years, keeping in mind that we always have to put these 16,000 students' needs first.
Thank you. Candidate Barrios, you may begin.
Okay, so two things here. So transparency for me, that's the solution. Everything we do as a board member must be done in public. So no special interest groups should be getting backdoor access to the decision-making body to lobby for these special interests. There's no excuse for this. It is not the job of the board to meet with groups that are going to go back to them to approve their contract. In no other business would anyone think it's okay to negotiate a contract with people who pay for your election. So yes, I will take stakeholder feedback through the public forums where those engagements should happen. That's in the public, in the board meetings, and in the committees. That's how you improve the relationships, by treating everyone the same when it comes to making decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
Thanks. So to me, the tension, as I previously mentioned, is indicative of, among other things, the need to increase transparency and communications between the district and teachers. As a school board member, I would work to ensure that negotiations are collaborative and ensure that the law is followed under the guise of the law, of course. Teachers' voices are important, and they need to be heard because they are interacting with our students on a daily basis. They understand the issues that affect our students, and ignoring their input would be a disservice for our students. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Thank you. Like my colleague, Trustee Heredia, I have always made myself available to the teacher leaders, not just the teachers union. I have had those weekly and monthly stakeholder meetings and have made myself available and have advocate for our teachers. But I've done a little bit beyond that. I think part of the reason a lot of our teachers are frustrated is because they feel like they're not believed. And as a board member, I have voted to support a teacher grievance. I have voted against a non-reelect when my conscience wouldn't let me believe that a teacher just was failing. I have supported those things, and I think those things need to continue to happen, and especially when a teacher is right about their grievance or their issue with the district. And so I think it has to go beyond just meetings. I think we need to show that we have diversity of opinion, and I think we have to show that we're looking at things as good judges of the matter, and we're not just simply an extension of the superintendent. We have to be have actual oversight of the district. That's what we're hired to do. And so that's what I've done. I've always tried to give a vote in a manner that I think is fair and is just. And when I first got elected, one of the things that I campaigned on was, hey, I want to get rid of this management versus labor culture. So I think teachers need to be believed. I don't think anyone's 100% right. And while there probably are differences that I, don't always, 100% agree with the teachers union on everything, I think they should be believed on some things. And so I'm the type of candidate that would do that. Thank you.
Your candidate Harding, you may begin.
This one is definitely near and dear to my heart. I want to improve the relationship and the tension between everyone. It's not okay, and it's time for the change. Let me be clear, just because you get endorsed by someone politically, there's not necessarily money being given. That just means that they support and realize that change is needed. The people that have endorsed me support me and believe and know that I am the best person for the job. It starts with communication. We have to do better. We must communicate and let them be heard. I have an open door policy as being the president of a community association here. My number is worldwide. It's even on my little flyer. I'm going to continue to stay open and available at all times. I think from me giving all my volunteer hours, whether it be PTA, Parent Advisory Board, School Site Council, LCAP, this and that, ELAC, sorry. I think that I've let it be known where I stand. I stand with the community. I do stand with my teachers. I do stand with our janitors. I stand with the cafeteria. It's not okay for us not to be listening to them. I have been in a school where I have seen a teacher try to have a talk with the principal, and he looked directly over her as that she didn't exist. That is not okay. We must take care of what is broken, and I will help do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I use my wild card, or what are we calling it?
All right. We have one wild card on the table. So candidate Serviano.
Can you wait just a moment, please?
Yep.
Lisa, I raised my hand for the last question and I was not given an opportunity.
Okay, I apologize for that.
So it would be unfair.
Hey, can we establish what the hand raise is? Is the hand raise the little,
And I raised my hand for the last question, and
if we don't see that, it would be good to.
I did that as well, and I raised my hand as well on the screen.
I did as well to that last question.
Oh, I apologize.
Then I think it'll be better if we don't.
So the question that was just asked regarding the superintendent?
The funding one.
Oh.
So we can go back and do those too.
I think we should probably just move forward.
Yes, I agree with the.
We set it from an equitable standpoint, and
yes,
and then we can use the hand raise. And once we establish what the hand raise is, I still don't know. Is it the?
It's if we don't see it on the side, for some reason we didn't see it on the side.
I don't see it on the side.
I did my hand as well, and I raised in the bar as well. The participants, you go on the participants, and you raise your hand, and I did that.
Okay.
We should just move ahead, because right now we're gonna waste more time.
Okay, we're actually ahead of time, so let's go ahead and candidate Severiano, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, so I just wanted to comment again on this, because I think I keep hearing, or I heard, that teachers are classified as special interest, and I just want to say that they are equal partners in the school district. Without teachers, we don't have successful schools. We don't have successful students. I mentioned earlier, I have a sibling and other family members that are teachers, and I know the hard work that they put in to the work that they do and really care about the students. So I would not classify them as special interest.
Thank you. Your time is up. All right, question 5. Brandy's going to reset the timer. What educational programs do you feel are missing in the Natomas Unified School District, and how would you go about bringing those programs to students? Candidate Seriano.
Yeah, so one of the big things that I'm running on is making sure that we have access to language programs, including dual immersion. Having access to those programs is very important to make, global citizens, students that understand another language, culture, and make, positions them better to get better jobs. but also makes them better humans, and understanding one another is very important. And so one of the programs that I really want to work on is how do we bring a dual immersion school to Natoma so that students can learn another language. We have a great example in Sacramento Unified with the Language Academy, and I would love to see a program like that here in Natoma, and making sure that it's accessible. And with Prop 58 from 2016, that created a pathway to do that. It requires parent input, and so I will work with parents to make sure that they know that they have access to that tool to try to bring a dual immersion school into Natomas. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mehta.
Okay, I do agree with Mariana on this one. And I also want to have a more increase of CTE programs, and getting those programs, I want to have the local businesses be involved in it. So we have businesses and our own community students benefiting each and everybody. So that way we have successful partnership with the district, with the teachers, with the community. So getting these programs, different programs from various Natomas businesses like Chamber of Commerce and other programs, to get those students into the students with these programs, getting the jobs and the internships within the community, and also the community, the businesses are getting benefit out of that as well. So that is what I want.
Thank you. Candidate Dosick, you may begin.
Natomas, there we go. Natomas Unified has about 16,000 students, and we have been recognized by the New York Times as being the second most diverse school district in the nation. As a result, we need to have diverse programs that meet the diverse needs of our community. We're off to a really good start, but there's a lot more that can be done. So far, we have implemented career technical education programs ranging from the broadcast media pathway with former Channel 10 reporter Melissa May at Intercom High School. We have a public safety pathway at Intercom. We also at Natomas High have a medical pathway program, a building and construction trades program, engineering, auto body or auto mechanics. So there are a lot of really good programs. We also have the strong academic programs like International Baccalaureate that started at Intercom and have now been expanded to H. Allen Height, Natomas Middle, Paso Verde, and now extending to our South Natomas K-8 schools. And if you drive through South Natomas, you're going to see the upgrades that we're making, converting our 3 South Natomas K-5 schools to comprehensive kindergarten through 8th grade programs. I agree that we do need to look at a dual immersion program, and this is something the district has been talking about. And my hope is that within the next 2 to 3 years, we would see a dual immersion program launched within the school district. But we also have to do more with our existing career technical pathways to make sure that we're not just offering these programs, but developing the pipeline from the pathways into careers.
Thank you. Candidate Barrios.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see more science, technology, engineering, and math. We have some STEM programs, but we need more. That is where the jobs of the future are. Again, there's no sign of let up in the speed at which workplaces are being digitized. So we need to start thinking about how do we make these kids employable. And that is why I volunteer my time connecting kids to jobs that are in demand. So let's focus on skills and preparing our kids for the future. Again, as a board member for Latinas in Tech, I have worked with the private sector in connecting them with students, like Scott just said. We do need that pipeline. I've worked in the private sector. It's not a two-way street. They know exactly where to go get the talent. We need to prepare our students and be able to create that pipeline so they have that accessibility. So I am, 100% willing to work and, help make that connection. I have that background. I've worked in private. I'm now in public, and I know how it works. And again, just the Latina statistics, 1% is unacceptable. And we need to do that not just with the Latinas, with all students, and prepare them for the jobs of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
I agree with a lot that has been said already. I believe that career technical education programs are needed, and more of it is needed. Affordable after school care is also needed, programs for that. Tutoring programs to help our students to ensure that they get the educational quality they deserve and they succeed in school. Just like what Mariana mentioned earlier, I agree that language academy programs are needed for English learners or first-time English learners. Another program that's near and dear to me is special ed programs and ensuring that students with disabilities and special education needs are properly serviced and they get the education that they deserve. Also, what's important is the right to training to implement these programs so that these programs actually work and they meet the goals that we envision when we discuss these issues and we implement them. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what's been said. We have to focus on IB, STEM, STEAM, you name it. But one of the things that's been really dear to me as a board member is our focus on student athletes, right? Student athletes, if you've attended the board meetings, you see they have some of the highest GPAs throughout our school district. And one of the programs I'm proud to have gotten the support of the board from was a career college counseling program for student athletes that teaches them about being a competitor in college, competing those A through G requirements, and ensuring that they can successfully transition from high school athletics to college athletics. And it's not easy being a student athlete. And so I think a lot more of that needs to happen because there's so much, and sports get stereotyped so much. I'm a former athlete, and I was stereotyped a lot because a lot of people have a lot of things they think about athletes aren't true. So we need to teach our students that there's more to sports than just running or catching a football. We need to tell them that, hey, you can be a sports agent. You can major in kinesiology, right? You can be a sports psychologist. So there's a lot of branches that I think we need to explore more with our sports programs. And we know that if we keep kids in school, one of the things that we know is that kids who are participating in sport are highly engaged and have a high attendance rate. And so if we want to push that graduation rate to 100%, I think we need to look at what we're doing with our athletes and model that in other areas of our district.
Thank you. Candidate Hardin, you may begin.
You. I love what everybody is saying because it's true. We do need dual immersion programs. I'm not necessarily sure how many more STEM type things we need because every student isn't going to be for STEM, but I know what they do need. We need more remedial classes. We need to consider bringing in Saturday school. I know it might sound kind of strange, but it's possible. We claim to be college and career ready and getting these kids ready, and we're not. We're throwing them out into the real world and they're struggling. Most of our students that do attend college don't make it. And the ones that do are having such a hard time. And it's just not fair. It's like, when is enough enough? All of our students deserve IB type educations, but everybody is not an IB type student. What are we going to do for the children that look like me, the Latinas, the brown and blacks? We need to try to figure this out before we lose more of our kids. I would love to see, Micah mentioned a cosmetology program. That would be amazing. A nail tech program. Let's think about pharmaceuticals. There's so many other programs, but if we don't start dealing with the fact that we have high schoolers that are reading at a 6th grade level, and we're saying it's okay, that's where the true problem is. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
Well, I led the charge on getting the dual immersion program in Natomas. I advocated it strongly for that program. And if, the board, I believe maybe it was a year ago or earlier this year, we determined that gave the superintendent direction and to get, to start moving in that direction. So I'm really proud of that because that's something that I've been working on for a while. But in terms of, the dual immersion programs, it also needs to be tied to ethnic studies. And I supported that bill that is on the governor's desk right now. I supported it. There were some modifications, and even with this modifications, I came to, I came to an understanding that it's better that we move forward, even though it wasn't in its purest form. And also tied to that, dual immersion, ethnic studies, and the seal of biliteracy, which is another thing that I strongly advocated for and continually advocated for until it was in place. And now we have the seal of biliteracy. I think all of those comprehensively help to build real well-rounded students in our community, because it helps them to understand more about cultures, not from a superficial perspective, but from a from a global perspective. We have a virtual tutoring program. We talked about it last night at our to help students. And we had great special ed program. We had great presentation last night on special ed also.
Wild card on the table. Candidate Sabiano, I do see yours, so we will start the timer for 30 seconds. And you may begin.
So I love, everything that everyone has said and all the programs that I think are important to bring to Natomas and to provide students access to them. But I want to make sure that, as we're thinking about new programming, that we're also looking at this from an equity lens and making sure that if we do something for North Natomas, that it's also accessible or in South Natomas. And I think that that's one of the things that's very critical for students that look like me. Sometimes we get put in tracks, and that's not fair for them. Students need to make a decision for themselves.
All right, we have one more, we have two more, but we have a wild card on the table. So candidate Mera, if you would like to begin. Oh, wait, we'll wait for the timer. And you may begin.
Okay, so we're talking so much about the dual immersion program and biliteracy program, but at the same time, at the district, we are not even able to recognize an EL student properly. So there are students who are not even EL student, but are put into that bracket. So we are actually wasting those resources to get into more for the dual immersion program. So I think as a board member, I would want to do something more on that perspective as well. And in after school enrichment programs are very essential as compared to the other CT, other programs as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
Okay, well.
Oh, unmute yourself. Unmute.
Earlier in the summer, I am the one that pushed for a revision of the EL master plan. So that is available on tape to go back and look at how I want that redesigned. I think it's in the best interest of schools. I also want to go back to the idea Erica talked about, why can't we offer this kind of programs to people, and why does it have to always be IB? Erica, I believe like you that every kid can learn, and I just think it's the way in which they're taught that makes a big difference. Just like you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
All right. So we are on to question 6 now. Will you be available to all stakeholders? And if so, how? Candidate Mehta, you may begin.
Yes, I will be available to all stakeholders. First of all, I stay in the community. I participate in all the community events. I am present in almost all the school events as well, not just present on the day of the event, but also working behind the scenes for the event. So for me, reaching out to people is not a big problem because community knows me and I know them. I will put my number, my email address, and I'm going to be proactive on sending them emails. Or also I was thinking if I'm elected that I would be holding like monthly meeting, maybe with the group of one particular school and the other school. And I will be also attending the PTA meetings that had been on my agenda. I mean, I don't have to say this. I'm actually doing this from so many years, not just one school, but so many schools. Having those collaboration, those partnerships, those relationships with the community, teachers, parents, I think I can do this. So that is where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Dosick, you may begin.
This is an interesting question. I suspect that all 8 of us are going to say, of course, I will be accessible to everyone and everyone. So of course, I will be accessible. I have been accessible for the last 8 years. I'm probably one of the most accessible people on the planet. If you don't know how to get a hold of me, you're really not trying, because you can just Google and my phone number, my email, my multiple emails pop up. The biggest problem I have on Google is people think that I'm Scott Disick instead of Scott Dosick. So just trying to clarify that I'm not the guy with the TV show or that was dating a Kardashian. I'm Scott Dosick with an O, or just Scott the dad works just fine as well. And like Sumiti said, for the last 8 years, I've been going to PTA meetings. I go to classrooms. I spend time reaching out to families and being proactive. I post information on my Facebook page on a regular basis that's going to be of interest to our community, and I proactively reach out to various stakeholder groups. if just to let them know, hey, there's something coming up on the agenda, you may want to take a look at this, because I agree, we need to be transparent and we need to be accountable. And that's something I'm really proud of this board. Over my 8 years on the board, I think we've been a model of transparency and accountability. And so if you want to talk to me about any of those issues, dosick4natomas@gmail.com, or just Google me. Trust me, you'll find me. But again, Scott Dosick, not Scott Disick. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Barrios, you may begin.
Yes, of course I will be accessible. So yes, of course I'll be accessible, but I will also be fair. In my professional role right now, all I do is coordinate with a diverse group of stakeholders to implement some of the most complex IT projects. So I'm used to communicating in all sorts of ways. And again, I will treat everyone equally and with respect, and that's how you build relationships. So any way they want to get a hold of me, like Scott said, email, through social media, my website's at monica/barrios.com. Just, send out a message to me. I will be here to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
Like what Scott mentioned, of course I'll be accessible and available. I think all of us are on that same page. I'm happy to attend public forums or any forums or meetings that stakeholders in the community are holding and hosting. I have an open door policy. I still have it in my current practice as an attorney. Anybody can reach me. You can always email me. My email is pretty straightforward. It's chris.s.alvarez@gmail.com. Or you can shoot me a comment or a question on my website at christopheralvarez.org. I'm happy to chat with anybody in the meantime from now until election day and thereafter.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Thank you. Absolutely. I think I'm actually one of the most responsive board members. And I think I'm known in the community for being extremely responsive. And I take a vested interest beyond constituent and customer service to make sure parents and students and teachers can find resolution. I don't just send it over to the constituent customer service. I don't track it. I take a vested interest in putting a thorough reply into parents. Beyond that, you can look at some of the reforms we've actually done on the board. We now live stream board meetings. It took a while to get it done, but our board finally got it done. And that is in the best interest of single parents or people who can't get to a board meeting, can't from 6 to 10 o'clock at night. You look at our policy, this year we kept board meetings limited to 10 o'clock after a robust discussion. That's done in the best interest of parents. We look at what other school districts are doing. They're going beyond 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight. And what they're doing is they're burning out constituents because they have things to hide. We don't have anything to hide. We've been extremely transparent, and that's something that I'm extremely proud of. So everyone's giving out their email address. Mine's is super easy, micah@micahgrant.com. It's very easy to remember. I'm super accessible. I take a vested interest in solving problems. And I've even walked door to door to introduce myself again after the last election, to introduce myself to the apartment complex that everybody likes to skip when they're running for office.
Thank you. Candidate Harding, you may begin.
Thank you. It's actually Hardin. My husband's in heaven, but I know he's like, tell her to say the name right. So I definitely will be available. I'm available now, and that's definitely not going to change. I think that it's important to make sure that we get out in the community. A lot of candidates in the past have said, oh, I'm going to come to your community association meeting, I promise, every month. Well, it's impossible to be at every meeting every month, but what it's not possible to do is to be available. I mean, everyone's already given out their information, so I'll do mine at the end, but I'm the community choice, and that's not going to change. I'm here for the community. I'm here for my special ed families. I'm here for the families that don't have any internet. So when we're thinking about these forums, Sue mentioned forums at the schools and the big whiteboards. I was at a lot of those forums. There just weren't enough people there. And I think it was partially because we didn't advertise right. Just because we're sending out an email to everybody that's on the list, that's a family member or a parent, not everybody has access to emails. We're making phone calls. Half of the phone numbers don't work. So we need to make sure that we take every route possible to ensure that everybody knows about this forums. I've heard that we have so many secret clubs inside of our, Natomas. the parent association. There's so many people that say, we have a parent association, the parent advisory board. We need more parents to know about that. And I want to see a PTA in every school. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
Well, like all the others, I'll be accessible, of course, but then I've always been accessible for my 19 years on the board. And as a parent, it was important to me to have people accessible that I could go to. So I always kept that in mind when I began my service as a school board member in that. Again, like everyone else, visible at, PTA events, school events, meetings, community meetings, wherever. We are always, and sometimes I think we are best responding to questions in the grocery store. Parents will stop you anywhere in terms of where they can find you. Doesn't matter where, but they even introduce you to them. In the teacher training, because I train teachers at Sac State to work in districts like in communities, especially like Natomas. That's one of the number one things that I always stress. You need to communicate with parents and need to be able to do that in 2 languages, not just 1, but 2, if at all possible. And so I think, we have to focus on maybe, what have we done? I think we've done a lot. Like Micah has said, we have been transparent. There's always room for improvement. We know that, but we also know that the feedback that we get from the community, we take that to heart. We build on that feedback and always want to improve for the betterment.
Candidate Sebiano, you may begin.
Yeah, so part of my work, my day job, is to bring people together, to work with coalitions, to listen to issues, listen to concerns, and figure out a way to address them. And that's how I will approach being a school board member. Is I will be accessible, I will have conversations, I will go to community meetings, which I'm already doing now and I've been doing for years. So I will continue to do that and work with the community to see what issues can we work on, what can we improve in the school district. I will be very transparent, accessible. I'll also give my email. It's mcsnatomas@gmail.com, and Mariana for Natomas in all social media handles, but I'll also give my cell phone, 530-400-1182. You can text me, call me anytime. I am very accessible and plan to do that as a school board member. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Did anyone raise their hand? All right. We'll wait for the timer to change. All right, you may begin.
Yeah, so I want to address comments made by Erica Harden. She's absolutely correct. It's one thing to communicate and it's one thing to be engaged. I've been at those meetings. I've been at those meetings when they've been empty. You're absolutely right, Erica. It's absolutely a shame. And the reason that is because people don't actually feel like they can impact their government. They don't feel like we're actually listening. And so they give up and they lose hope. And so it has to go beyond communication. It has to turn into action. So 100% with you. I've seen it. We tried to engage parents and they just feel dejected because they feel like their government doesn't listen.
Thank you. All right, so we do have a little bit of bonus time and we have time for a bonus question, maybe 2. So here is our bonus question. What do you see as strength in Natomas Unified School District and why? Candidate Barrios, you may begin.
Yeah, for me, it's diversity. I mean, I think we were number 1 for a while. We may have fallen down to number 2, but it's absolutely beautiful to see how diverse our community is. That's one of the reasons I chose to live here. I'm very proud of our community. Another is, the communication that's going on with our school board. I think it's been pretty good so far. But going back to what I think Micah just mentioned, I think an important part of it is, is the message. It's not just communicating, but is the message being received and fully understood? What is the impact? What is the risk? So, we need to make sure that the parents are understanding, and whether we need to do that in Espanol, we can do that too, or any other language to help, parents understand. That's what we're here for. So thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
Yeah, so the immediate strengths that I've seen recently have to do with COVID-19. I think our educators, our teachers, and parents have done a good job to making sure that the model that's been implemented right now is to an extent working to the best we could while complying with the health regulations and guidelines from our health experts. Sort of touching on what was just said, I'm proud to be in a district that is one of the most diverse in the nation. That said, I know there needs to be some work to ensure that students of diverse backgrounds, especially those in communities like South Natomas, which traditionally has underserved communities where kids live in poverty, where there are foster youth, first-time English learners. We need to make sure that their voices are heard and that they are receiving the resources they need to succeed in schools. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Thank you. I will echo the comments of every candidate here, and I think diversity is a strength, not just also diversity of opinion and philosophy. I think that's a part of our core values, and so I have found that to be very true as a board member. But one of the things I'm exceptionally proud of, and as a board member, is the fact that we actually, as a district, share what's called dirty data. A lot of school districts, they don't share where they're weak. Natomas Unified will share where we are weak, and we will share it very extensively in PowerPoints, and we will put it in terms that parents understand. There's a lot of things we have to improve on, right? And what's been made available, a lot of the statistics that have been made available that people are citing as reasons to improve, the district, we have put that information out. I have asked the superintendent to put this information out publicly so that people can engage, including the fact that we, at one point, we were top 3 districts in the state in expulsions for black male students. So the district had to put that information out there. And, I have taken vested interest in fighting that. So one of the strengths, again, is that we share dirty data. And as a trustee, I'm going to continue to make sure our presentations aren't just everything that we're good at. Our presentations need to share what we're bad at. And we need to continue to engage stakeholders like we've been doing.
Thank you. Candidate Harden, you may begin. Did I get it right?
You did. Thank you. That's why I was smiling. Thank you very much. What everybody just said, I mean, Micah took the dirty data from me, so way to go. But our strength is our community. The diversity is there. I think it shows when you're looking right now tonight. You see the diversity across this board. We have people that now look like our students, and that is wonderful. The dirty data has been excellent that's been brought to the table. Not everybody goes and seeks it, but at least now it's out there and it's available. What can we do? Hey, more of that, but let's have forums and share the dirty data. Let's do some forums, what I did one at Natomas Middle School. I offered food, and I called 835 families, 632 actually got it, and 132 showed up. It was the good, bad, and the ugly. It was a no holds bar, say what you mean, put it up on those boards, and let's look at it. And I will continue to do those kind of forums and bring them back to the district office. And whether it's something that I believe in or don't believe in, I'm going to bring it back to the team because the community is truly where our diversity is. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
So one of the things I'm really proud of is the graduation rates. We've got, like Micah mentioned about the expulsion rates, we've come a long ways with our graduation rates. With the graduation rates, the highest we exceed the county and the state levels. And I think that is truly to be celebrated. You don't get high graduation rates without making important decisions about programs. And the programs that we have in our district have helped to, provide interest, to help to meet the needs of the students and put them on a path where there's an incentive to really work hard. So the programs we have, and we're a district of, although we're diverse, we're also a district of choice that has programs. I mean, like our charter schools, like our IB program, like our career in tech. All of those programs in place help to address the needs of our students. So our investment in our students, that's what I have always been about. How do we invest in our students? How do we invest in them so that one day they can come back and be part of our teaching force, which has been the case for some of them. And right now I think of one young gentleman who just finished the teaching program, and he also went through our diversity program in Natomas. And that's when we know that we've done our job well, is because I've always said, you never know when these students are going to be on the other side of you and making decisions about your life. We have to educate them the best that we can. And I think we have done that. But another strength I think that's really important is that is just looking at trying to get the parents more involved over the years. I can remember, like Erica's talking about, how very few would come. We worked really hard, and I think their voices has helped also to inform our decisions.
Candidate Cebiano, you may begin.
You know, I'm very proud to live in Natomas, and I love this community. I've been here for 10 years and in Sacramento for a total of 19. I went to Sac State, and you know, one of the things that I really love about Natomas is how diverse we are. I think it's one of our huge strengths. And the school district, you know, in addition to some of the stuff I've said earlier, I think I'll focus on, you know, I think Natomas did a great job in responding to the pandemic, in providing Chromebooks, in providing the resources that parents and teachers and students needed compared to other districts in Sacramento. So I really want to, you know, emphasize that and highlight that, you know, they did do a good job. They provided information in Spanish to parents, which is the second language most spoken in the district, which is very, you know, it's important to me as an English learner, as a family, you know, growing up in a family that did not speak English. Also, Natomas is, the school district has done a good job of supporting LGBTQ students. So I want to highlight that, but that's also an area of improvement. You know, when it comes to adopting policies, curriculum, and textbooks, the district has been supportive, but I believe that the school board needs to be a 5-0 when it comes to creating those policies. And it's not about our individual interests, it's about making sure that all students are supported. So that's one of the things I want to see on this board, is that we are 100% behind LGBTQ students and vulnerable students.
Thank you. Candidate Maida.
So yes, diversity is one of the very strengths of our community. And I also feel the involved parent participation is also shown in what we have in the schools. And also, if you see how diverse we are by looking at all the candidates that we have. So these are the things I exactly feel what everybody is feeling. Yes, the district has done an amazing job of responding to pandemic and reaching out to students and everything. But I still think we need to do a lot. When we talk about the choice of schools, yes, we do have choice of school, but are the parents able to take that choice is a question, because I don't think so. That is the reality over here. There are still parents who are wanting to go to this particular school or that particular school, and they cannot get in. We do have schools, but how do we make sure that all schools have all the things for all the students, so that parents don't even have to say, oh, I have to go to this IB or I have to go to this charter school. Every school can provide everything that is required for our students. So I want best education for all our students in all our schools. That is what my motive is right now.
Thank you. Candidate Dosick.
It's great going last on this question, so I can kind of say me too to everything else that's been said right now, and appreciate all the 7 of the other candidates talking about all the positive things that are happening in Natomas. Because despite a pandemic, we've had a lot of successes over the last number of years, and especially since the pandemic launched. Probably the thing I'm most proud of and appreciative of is this incredible community, this incredible diverse community that not once but twice has come together to vote for Measure J and Measure L to provide us the resources we need to modernize and improve and build 21st century classrooms for all of our students. I would strongly encourage you, drive around the district, go to every single one of our schools, look at the upgrades that are being done to our K-8 schools in South Natomas with American Lakes, Jefferson, and Bannon Creek. Check out the amazing new football field at Natomas High and the track, which the Stripes will be in momentarily. Check out the new Paso Verde campus, which is going to be, the bellwether is going to be one of the most beautiful campuses ever built. Something that this board, and even though this board has a lot of diversity, has been pointed out, and some diverse opinions, we have come together to make prudent budget decisions, to invest in our schools, to invest in our kids, while at the same time protecting our most vulnerable populations, winning statewide awards for our English language learner reclassification programs, and passing safe haven policies to protect our most vulnerable students. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a wild card on the table. Candidate Hardin.
So I just wanted to go back to something Sue mentioned about our graduation rate being up, and that that's something to be proud of. It definitely is something for us to be proud of, but at what expense? There's nothing for us to be proud of when a lot of our students are graduating and they're only reading and writing at 5th, 6th grade level at top. So we can be proud when we can truly get our students where they need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Sue, are you going to use your second one? All right, candidate Heredia.
Yeah. So as a college professor, I know better than I know well the idea of students sitting in my classroom unable to read and write to the level that they should be. As a literacy teacher at UC Davis and a literacy teacher at Sac State and a second grade teacher, I know the importance of and the value of literacy. So I will work hard to make sure that our students meet those standards in literacy, having been there, having worked with them, and having struggled with them to get.
Thank you. All right, candidate Dosick, you have 30 seconds.
Great, thank you. So, yeah.
Let's see. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I spent 9 years as an instructor at the University of Phoenix, and sorry, my backlight just turned off. That'll come on in a second, so I didn't mean to disappear on you. I spent 9 years as an instructor at the University of Phoenix. I saw what happens when our schools fail our kids. I saw kids that were enrolling in college classes that could not write and could not communicate. So I agree with Ms. Hardin. This is absolutely something that we need to prioritize and focus on.
All right, candidate Grant.
Yeah, I have I agree with candidate Hardin. The reading level is important. I've actually spent time as a supplemental educational services provider in this community and in Del Paso Heights in tough areas. I've had to try to show kids on my own personal time how to read, and it's very devastating, and these kids don't have hope. So I know I take that very seriously, and I take it personally. This is what I do, and this is the type of guy you're going to get if you reelect me as a school board member. I live it. I'm actually not just doing it from a policy perspective. I'm with these kids, and I'm trying to help improve outcomes.
All right, thank you. All right, doesn't look like any more hands. So thank you to everyone. We have reached the portion in the program when candidates are invited to make your closing statement. You will have 1 minute to make that statement. And we are starting with candidate Dosick.
Thank you very much. And Alyssa, thank you so much for moderating. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Natomas Buzz for hosting this valuable forum for our community. We are at a pivotal time in Natomas. We are literally dealing with a pandemic and a pandemic-induced recession. There has never been a greater need to have experienced voices on your school board. We are going to be dealing with a myriad of issues, from education policy to online learning, moving back into the classroom, and depending on that dial, possibly back and forth between distance learning and classroom. At the same time, ensuring that we have a balanced budget. When we look at all the challenges that are happening in neighboring districts, Natomas Unified is on solid financial footing, so much so that when we refinanced our bonds this week, we had such a strong credit rating that we were able to save the Natomas taxpayers over $7 million in interest payments. I would look forward to serving you for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Barrios, it's time.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my message. The world is changing and our kids need a plan for the future. This election is about who you trust and who is prepared to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Natomas students are facing learning loss due to COVID-19, a widening achievement gap, and a growing digital literacy divide, just to name a few. These challenges require school board members who are forward-thinking and agile and focused on solutions. I believe my experience as a facilitator of complex technology projects and negotiations will help our schools meet the challenges of tomorrow while protecting the interest of students. The biggest issue now is how do we help our kids recover the learning they have lost during the pandemic? As a parent, I can relate to the struggles of parents grappling with the challenges of distance learning and invested in solving the problem. My solution for addressing COVID-19 learning loss is to expand learning opportunities once in-person classes can safely resume that are focused on helping kids catch up, doing a gap analysis. Finally, I do not accept contributions from political interest groups. When it comes time to make the tough decisions voters can trust, I will provide the parents' voice.
So much.
Thank you.
Candidate Alvarez, you may begin.
I just want to say thank you to Thomas Buzz, Brandy, and Alyssa for having us here. I'm running in this position to serve our community. I built a life around public service, and I believe public education is the cornerstone of our democracy. My experiences have given me the tools to serve one of the most diverse school districts in this nation. My legal background gives me the skills to research and provide insight on valuable solutions and negotiate resolutions on issues that the district faces. I know the importance of partnering with families, teachers, school administrators, and the community. With your vote, I'm committed to helping build the infrastructure needed for the next generation, and I look forward to serving this community and hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grant, you may begin.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting this wonderful forum. I think it's been a pleasure being your school board member. We've taken the steps to change this district culture to be attuned to the needs of parents, teachers, and students. I think right now, experience and steady leadership are needed to navigate these difficult times. Even though we have a pandemic, student achievement is high and schools are being upgraded, and we're still laser focused on equity. Under my leadership, we've cut administrative waste and we've put money to the classroom. And after years of promises, board meetings are now live streamed, and trustees can fully represent their communities by placing items on the agenda. As your trustee, I've worked hard to safeguard parental rights and have focused on Black students to making sure they're not disproportionately punished. So progress is measurable, but I think more work is needed to promote high level of playing field for all students, especially those with disabilities. It would be an honor to serve as your trustee for another term. If you look at microgrant.com, you can find more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hardin, you may begin.
Thank you, Alyssa. You've been a gracious moderator. I appreciate that. Thank you, Natomas Buzz, and thank you to all of you guys that have joined us this evening. Really appreciate it. Go to ericahardin.com to get more information and find out about who I am. I just want the opportunity to make the change. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Heredia, you may begin.
Thank you, as everybody else has expressed. Thanks to Natomas Buzz, to the Women League of Voters, and to all of Alyssa, and to all the behind the scenes, Brandy, everybody else. I'm immensely passionate about education. I served 19 years on this board. I have been a teacher, a university professor, a principal. I know what classrooms are like. I've lived them. And as a mom, having raised two sons in this district, I've experienced what that's like to go through the education. My experience, at the university where I helped to train teachers, some of which are in teaching in the Natomas district, others in surrounding areas, and one who is a superintendent he's very young, a superintendent in a neighboring district. But I bring this passion to the board, and I will continue to bring it to the board. Thank you.
Candidate Saviano, you may begin.
I understand the issues faced by students and families with limited means and access, and the importance of lifting their voices and welcoming them to where decisions are made. I am running for those parents and families that worry for the future of their children and do everything possible to ensure their success. Most parents cannot spend countless hours volunteering in the classroom because they have full-time or multiple jobs to make ends meet. I am the daughter of such parents who came to this country seeking a better future. As the eldest in my family, I took on that important role of helping my parents fulfill their mission, and that continues to this day. I know what it's like to put someone through college, to advocate with teachers on behalf of your siblings, to spend late hours into the evening making cupcakes for the school bake sale or helping prep for the speech for the 6th grade election of the student body president. That is who I am and who I will be for all families in Natomas. With my background and skills, I can hit the ground running day one. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mehta?
Thank you. What I will bring to the board is a parent perspective who has volunteered over 1,000 of hours in various capacities and multiple school sites, partnering with schools to support students. I will work to promote student and teacher safety, better communication, and improved partnerships with broad coalition of diverse community stakeholders, including the district staff. My priority is making sure NUSD is well-resourced, high-performing district, providing all our students with meaningful academic opportunities in healthy and nurturing environment. I'm endorsed by Mayor Pro Tem Ashby, various Natomas education and community leaders like Tom Rutten, Charlie Leo, Daniel Marshall, Brandon Black, to name few. I have support from many Natomas PTA leaders as well. I have passion for serving and understanding of challenges in the classroom. With my experience and knowledge for our schools and students, I can help to provide the necessary leadership and ideas to the board. Please check Sumati for Natomas and vote for me for successful Natomas schools and students. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight for the Natomas School Board Candidate Forum. If you are a registered voter who resides in Natomas, we good? Okay. If you are a registered voter who does reside within the Natomas Unified School District boundaries, you may vote up to 3 candidates. Please consider using all 3 of your votes. Just a reminder that there is a second forum for October 22nd. If you would like to submit a question for the candidates to answer on the second forum, or even on the Natomas Buzz questions and answer series, please send them to editor@natomasbuzz.com. For voting information, visit votersedge.org. You have until October 19th to register to vote. Again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to all the candidates, and we will see you soon.
Good night, Natomas.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you guys soon.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.